Hey everybody, it's Fox with FoxeoGames, and this is a Fox First Scent of Nioh, the PlayStation 4 exclusive. Now, it is outright impossible to talk about Nioh and not make at least some references to the Souls series, because it borrows heavily from it, and that's for the better for the most part. I've actually found that, other than a few frustrations, mainly being that it's extremely difficult to get out of a stun lock by dodging, you kind of have to block, which I'm not used to. There are a couple other little frustrations as well. I'm really enjoying my time with Nioh. I find it to be one of the best games of the year so far, and probably will be for the rest of the year, though we don't know exactly how games are going to pan out. But I've had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, I've had some frustrations with it too. The game starts off in this sort of tutorial area that feels remarkably similar to Demon Souls. You're using regular, English style or European style weaponry, and then it pretty much completely changes its tune and goes over into this, Eastern style, feudal Japanese, and it's got a lot of fantasy mixed in as well. Obviously, we're fighting monsters, there's magic, and all sorts of cool stuff like that. Now, to say that Nioh is a Souls clone would be completely unfair and wrong. It's not. It borrows a lot from Souls combat, but it also adds a lot. There are combos in this game that play a much bigger role than any combos ever did in the Souls series. Now granted, in Souls, hitting the button multiple times will sometimes produce slightly different attacks. In this game, you can actually follow up attacks with other attacks based on whether you use your heavy or your light attack. And then you can even set up combos as you learn them. So you unlock skill points, you use those skill points to unlock skills, and then you set up the combos the way you want them. So, if let's say you hit the light attack, heavy. What happens on that fourth attack when you hit the heavy button depends on what you set it up to. There aren't a billion combinations, but there are enough to keep the game interesting. You have a lock-on, of course, and you circle strafe a lot and all that other stuff. You do have a block, which is as simple as holding up your weapon, which I like. So you don't have dedicated blocking items in the game. I haven't found one. There doesn't seem to be any mechanic for that. I don't mind though, because it's more like a Bloodborne in that regard than it is a game like Dark Souls. But again, tons of Souls references in here. When you die, you leave your Amrita, your experience points, right where you died, and then you can come back and pick them up. If you die again, they're gone forever. It's got that third-person action combat, just like the Souls series does. You've even got some ranged weapons, including some primitive firearms, which are, boom, really awesome. I love these things. I love the way he kind of flips the gun around as he reloads it. A lot of cool animations in the game, and the sound effects are absolutely top-notch. They're some of my favorite in any game of this sort. In fact, when I started playing the game, I immediately thought that the sound effects sounded better than most of what you'd find in the Souls series. But again, that's sort of a aesthetic thing that I'm just picking up on. I can't prove it. Now, is the game difficult? Yeah, it sure is. I've died a lot. In the beginning area, I didn't die once. But once I got to Japan, because most of the game takes place in Japan from what I've seen, haven't finished it yet, it does get remarkably harder. But as you get used to the combat style, you will find it gets easier as you adjust to it. It's not the same as the Soul series, and that's one thing you have to figure out. It's remarkably similar in so many ways, but you cannot play it the same. There are enough differences to really change things up. And one of those is, I hope you don't mind, I'm showing one of the first bosses in the game here, not a major spoiler, but you see these little areas on the ground. What you have to do is actually time your key replenishment, I forget what it's called, in order to disable those little yokai demon realm places on the ground there, those little auras, because those auras will prohibit you from really regaining stamina at your normal rate. And it is really important to get rid of them, because if you stand in one, stamina regenerates so slowly that it's going to be impossible to fight. The game is very difficult, but the difficulty is very uneven, and that's one of the things that a lot of these games face. It happened a lot with Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, and Bloodborne, is that you'll be cruising through some parts of the game, and then get to one part, and it'll feel like it's nearly impossible until you find some little trick or whatnot. This was, I think, only my second time fighting this guy. I ended up actually beating him. But it is an interesting game in so many different ways, because the aesthetic is radically different from the Soul series, so that's one thing that separates it. You have these little guardian spirits, as you see I called one right there, and the guardian spirits are essentially when you build up a gauge, and then you can use this sort of massive attack that makes you invincible for as long as it's active. When you get hit, it actually drains the meter. When you attack, it drains the meter. So it's not this unlimited thing that you have for a period of time. You actually use it up as you use it or as you get hit. So there is still incentive to try to dodge enemy attacks after you've used your Guardian Spirit special move. There are many different Guardian Spirits. They have different elements to them, and elements play a role in this game. So that's why you want to keep different weapons. Like, even if it's the same exact weapon, you want to keep one that's water, one that's lightning, one that's fire, if you can find them. So it's basically Dark Souls kind of married with the Borderlands loot style, because you'll find tons of the same thing with different stats randomized to a certain degree. Really liking the game so far. I am still working on a review. I'm just getting distracted by other games like Horizon Zero Dawn and Zelda Breath of the Wild, but I will get the review out as soon as I can, hopefully in a few days here. I'm Fox with FoxeoGames, and I will see you guys next time.